Hi, Cherie Hansen here. This is my blog, which is called Snapshots of Toronto and Montreal, which is about my journey that I just took back east for 9 days, my first journey. The gift of leaving my circumscribed life is to be more awake and open to the lessons which arrive in my life. On the airport bus, the woman behind me from Nova Scotia fishes out change to help a very distraught Chinese woman and her mother who get on without change. The Chinese woman runs out of the bus, flags down a relative who is driving away, but who has no change. She runs into a store and comes out without change, and everyone just sits on the bus waiting. The driver could throw her off, but he sits patiently. The woman behind me keeps holding out the change, and finally the Chinese woman with no English grabs it, gives her a $5 bill, and successfully enters the bus. I say to the woman, I have met so many people who have a story. And she says, you want to hear a story? I have a story. I came into town for my niece's funeral. But the day I arrived was my birthday. We had a birthday party that evening and attended the funeral the next day. I went home to my sister's house, and her husband became ill. We rushed him to the hospital, and he died there. I have to come back for his funeral. There was a birthday, a funeral, and a death in the 3 days I have been here. I said to her, you are so open and friendly and helpful. You do not seem to have let it diminish you. She said, we create our world. People die. There is grief. But we have to choose how to live. I was so glad I was sitting next to her. I met 2 young women sitting next to me at the Book of Mormon musical. I looked at their legs and asked them if they were runners. One was a soccer player athlete and the other a serious rugby player. They leaned forward laughing, meeting the energy of the actors with their bodies. Their faces were open with delight. There were 4 of us in a row, daring to make noise and laughing when we wanted to. We were connected in our desire to just hoot out happiness. 2 young women athletes, a 72-year-old artist, and a talented video editor from India. And we were a tribe. Travel is magic. I met a man on the metro in Toronto who got up and helped a confused, chaotic mother and grown daughter get their luggage put away. He was glowingly fit, centered, and calm, and he radiated a sense of light in the world. I pointed to his wrist. Where did you get that? I asked. About his bracelet? Brazil, he said. I said I went to Peru for my change. We both smiled. He said, I go there too. Then we each sat quietly thinking about those who seek to grow up. We knew that each of us had moved with courage through a forest of problems, and now he knew when 2 people were in chaos exactly what he could do to help them. The world is full of magic. I met a woman in the coffee shop in Toronto who had lived in one place all her life, and she did not think her life fit her any longer, so she got rid of her stuff except for a very few pieces of furniture, sold her house, and was in the process of finding a place close by in the north of Toronto. She wanted to begin a new book, not just a new chapter. I met a man named Wigglesworth, whose sister is Detective Wigglesworth in Vancouver. He was sitting in a coffee shop in Toronto, and we talked. His job is managing the online presence of several companies in Finland. The spice of travel, the people you meet. He told me he chatted with an author who asked permission to use his sister's name in his next book, Detective Wigglesworth. I met a Chinese PhD student from China who was working on her lifelong project examining protein cells with the goal of preventing and curing cancer. She spoke little English, and yet this brilliant woman and I spent most of the day together going to St. Joseph's Oratory in Montreal and then lunch at Vigo. We talked of how we seek out bookstores, churches, architecture, art galleries for our joy. We talked of how strange we were compared to others in our cultures. She has never partied or dated. Her life is focused on learning. We understood one another through the barrier of language differences and felt validated. Travel brings in your tribe. I met a lovely woman on the plane who is an executive for WestJet and works in cargo efficiency. She told me of her responsibility to transfer stem cells and organs to donors. And then she walked me to my gate, which was well out of her way. There are so many things I haven't thought about before that travel teaches me. It's such a gift to meet her and talk throughout the flight. I met a couple from New York in the airport in Toronto. She was originally from Mexico and works as a commercial photographer in the big city now. Her partner was a sound engineer listening to the new artist recording that he had mixed just before their trip. They were sparklingly authentic and open, and we found one another on social media immediately. I love these quick and open connections. Travel is magic. Thank you.